Governor Steve Bullock.
Don't kid yourself. The threats are real. We have to continue to build up our voices, to be even louder.
How do you become president when most of America doesn't even know who you are? I first heard about Steve Bullock last summer. Alrighty, test, 1, 2, 3. Some folks in Iowa told me to pay attention to him for the 2020 presidency. He was a different type of candidate than they'd seen before.
I got reelected in 2016 in Montana. President Trump won the state by 20 points.
He doesn't have the decades of name recognition like Donald Trump, or the money, or the political clout of other Democrats in the 2020 field.
Nearly 30 leading Democrats are said to be considering a run against President Trump.
But it's the root of what made him a success back home, and that's why we're here. Could a Montana man win the Democratic nomination and then take on a New Yorker, President Donald Trump?
This is a community that I was raised in. I delivered newspapers to the governor's house as a kid. I've been able to do progressive things in this state. And yeah, 25 to 30% of my voters voted for Donald Trump. When you look at the dysfunction that's occurring in Washington, D.C., Montana and Montanans have typically figured out a way to kind of rise above that dysfunction, still make government work.
Bullock has not officially joined the race yet, but he hasn't exactly come out of nowhere. For most presidential candidates, it's about laying the groundwork. Elizabeth Warren, Kirsten Gillibrand, Kamala Harris all visited Iowa in the first week of declaring their 2020 candidacies. But that's nothing new for Bullock. He's already visited the state 4 times in just the last year. And this is exactly how a long-shot Democratic governor ended up winning the whole thing before.
Jimmy who?
I don't know who he is.
I heard he was a peanut farmer.
Carter changed the game in Iowa. He roamed small towns and built a hardy coalition. He bested the other candidates in the caucus and was suddenly relevant. And then 16 years later, there was another relatively unknown governor, this one from Arkansas.
Clinton has 0 foreign policy experience. But the bigger question is whether he'll be perceived as too moderate by the liberal activists who dominate the primary process.
Sound familiar? Governor Bullock currently represents one of the country's most rural places. Just look at the 2016 race by county. The Democratic nominee suffered across rural America. So why do Montanans like him?
Well, I think he does communicate well with ranchers and folks that you would think of as, on the average, being very conservative voters.
When I tell you Steve Bullock, and potential candidate for president of the United States, you tell me.
Holy shit, really? Yeah, wow.
Do you think he could take on Donald Trump?
No, I don't think so. Trump is a little bit of a bulldozer, you know, he's powerful guy.
For a guy new to the national scene, Bullock still has much to answer. Does he support Medicare for all? U.S. troop presence in the Middle East? As governor, he has expanded Medicaid, called for universal background checks, and a ban on assault weapons. He's also been a strong public lands advocate for Montana.
The president does not understand the value of our public lands, and an attack on public lands anywhere is an attack on public lands everywhere.
You can't shake the hands or listen to every voter, but you can actually demonstrate by showing up in places, talking about things that matter around, you know, a kitchen table or the bar after shift.
Can I ask you your thought about the idea of this guy running for president?
Excellent. Perfect. He'd be perfect. As long as your wife's on board, you can do that.
I appreciate that.
While he might have the votes at the bar in Montana, it's still a long time before the first official caucus. How do you run against Donald Trump?
I think that if anybody thinks the job is to out-Trump Trump, I think they're boldly mistaken. I think I could certainly stand up to him and offer something better.